All right. Good evening. Linda, could you please give the invocation?
Father, thank you for a new year and a new perspective in 2021. Thank you, Father, for the privilege to pray at this city council meeting and the honor to pray over our city leaders. Lord, bless the order of business that will take place tonight. May each topic be considered with care and clear vision. Open up the minds and thoughts of each one here so that wise decisions can be made for the good of the community and all people who live and work in Freeport. I pray that you will protect and provide for each city official and all our superhero first responders. Fill each one with a measure of your wisdom and a desire to seek truth. I pray, Lord, that you would begin to lay the groundwork for what needs to take place in our community for the good and safety of all. Please reveal what is absolute truth and what is not. I pray that respect would replace frustration, and as each voice is heard, judgment would be held in check, and an increase of compassion would take place. Lord, I also lift up to you the current affairs of our nation. I pray for your intervention in the hearts and minds of all who are disquieted by all that's going on. Lord, you reminded me that 2,600 years ago, the prophet Habakkuk said in the book of Habakkuk, chapter 1, verse 3, "Destruction and violence are before me, strife and contention arise." And just as you answered Habakkuk 2,600 years ago, you answer us today the same way. And we can find comfort in the words in Habakkuk 1:5, where God says, "Look among the nations and see, wonder and be astounded, for I am doing a work in your days that you wouldn't believe if told." Thank you, Father, that you're doing a work today that is so wonderful that we would be astounded and that we would not believe if told. I pray in agreement with Habakkuk 3:18 that says, "I will take joy in the God of my salvation." Lord, we rest in the peace of who you are and believe that in the goodness of your plans. Lord, I thank you for your provisions of salvation and all who believe, and the building of our faith and the gift of your love. John 3:16 says, "For God so loved the world that he gave his only Son, that whoever believes in him should not perish, but have everlasting life." In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Linda. Now we'll officially call this meeting to order. Madam Clerk, would you please take the roll?
Attending in person, Mayor Miller,
Here.
Alderpersons Ross
Here.
and Parker.
Here.
Attending via teleconference, Alderpersons Borneman,
Present.
McClanathan,
Present.
Busker,
Present.
Brashaw,
Present.
Mysick,
Present.
and Berberay.
Present.
Staff attending in person, Manager Bucas
Present.
and Directors Richter, Boyer, Chief Summers,
Present.
Chief Liggett, Director Sutman, and Huffines. Clerk Anderson is present in person. Attending remotely, Department Heads, Director Hines.
Present.
And back to in person, our City Legal Counsel, Zito.
Present.
Did I miss anyone online? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And if you could please stand and join us with the Pledge of Allegiance led by Alderman Busker.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, that had to have been the fastest we'd ever done that. Thank you, Alderman Busker. Item number 1 is the approval of the agenda. Is there such a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion made by Alderman Ross, seconded by Alderman Parker. Madam Clerk, would you please take the roll on the approval of the agenda?
Busker,
Aye.
Brashaw,
Aye.
Meissick,
Aye.
Berberay,
Aye.
Borneman,
Aye.
McClanathan,
Aye.
Ross,
Aye.
and Parker.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you. Item number 2 is approval of the minutes from the regular council meeting on January 4th, 2021. Is there a motion to approve this agenda? Motion to approve these minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Alderman Meissick, were you the second?
Yeah.
He's smiling some.
Okay, so we have a motion made by Alderman Brashaw, seconded by Alderman Meissick to approve the minutes. Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll?
Busker,
Aye.
Brashaw,
Aye.
Meissick,
Aye.
Berberay,
Aye.
Borneman,
Aye.
McClanathan,
Aye.
Ross,
Aye.
and Parker.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you. Item number 3 is public comments. I don't believe we have anyone signed in for public comments that is present. However, I believe that the city clerk has a few to read for the record.
We received 4 written public comments on the same topic, all in opposition. I will read the first 3. The 4th will be kept on file. All of them are available if anybody wants them. The first one, my name is Carl Braun. These comments are in opposition to Resolution R 2021-03 to be acted on later during this meeting. I support public safety operations in communities. I support the need for police protection from illegal acts and enforcement of laws. I do not support policing that applies extrajudicial punishment or abuse. I do not support application of immoral or unethical law enforcement practices that ignore, even flout constitutional protections for all people. Over the last year, as concerned elected officials, I hope each of you did an intense study of the roots of racism in this country that has persisted for the last 4 centuries. This study informed you that the genesis of policing in this country is rooted in racism. It evolved from slave catchers, in quotes, people employed by plantation owners to run down black slaves attempting to escape inhumane cruelty and oppression. Unfortunately, the roots of this evolution of police practice are still evident today and sadly are often in clear public view in the country and our community. This city council is prepared to resolve that this legislation is onerous. The resolution contends this law will impede police from doing their jobs and contains unfunded mandates. Who vehemently oppose this legislation? Every law enforcement agency and, in quotes, law and order, end quote, legislator in the state was dead set against it. If anyone chose to dig deeper, all of the arguments put forward by these organizations were hyperbolic and many were intended to misinform and appeal to, quotes, red meat, end quote, quote, law and order, end quote, proponents. What are the benefits of this legislation and what are the unfunded mandates? They are all law enforcement practices that protect citizens from police overreach and abuse. Time does not allow detail, but I plan to develop a document that does. Bottom line, will these changes end policing as we know it? I hope so. Policing as we know it today, in bold, should end. To further illustrate my point, I live in Freeport's 2nd Ward. I am white, I'm a Vietnam vet. I, like everyone who serves in the U.S. military, took an oath to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States. I have a college education. I, like most white people, do not fear for my life should I get into an interaction with a police officer. If I was arrested, I could probably manage to get myself bailed out of jail and afford a lawyer. Many citizens in this community do not enjoy the same privilege and the many benefits that accrue from my skin color. I suspect each and every one of you knows this in your gut. The final question I have for this council is why? In bold, why? Doesn't every citizen of Freeport enjoy the same rights I enjoy? I challenge every member of this council to deeply reflect on what you know to be the answer. It's crystal clear to me, and I expect to each of you. I believe this legislation is a reasonable and long past due step towards police reform. I, in bold, condemn the City Council for proposing this resolution. It should not go forward. Thank you for your time. The second letter via email is from Calvin McElwain. Dear Mayor and City Council, your resolution to ask the governor to veto House Bill 3653, Police Criminal Justice Reform Bill, is sending a message loud and clear to me and the community. This mayor and city council care more about supporting local law enforcement than creating an environment where law enforcement and the community can work together and create a safer Freeport. Instead of drafting a resolution to veto the bill, why not pass a resolution outlining the items in the bill that are of concern for law enforcement and recommend what changes would improve the bill? Just like you are expressing dissatisfaction over the bill being passed in the early morning hours of January 13th, I am dissatisfied about the fact that you are voting on this resolution that will impact members of this community without any input from the community, which you are also supposed to be representing. You take issue that local municipalities weren't allowed to give the level of input you desire, but you, the mayor and city council, have drafted a resolution on a bill that impacts the entire community without any community input and was put hastily on the agenda to approve without any or little knowledge within the community this was being drafted. The Police Criminal Justice Reform Bill will impact law enforcement and the community, but clearly this resolution is focused mainly on the interest of law enforcement and its views on the bill. The bill will most likely be signed by the governor. Instead of taking this as an opportunity to help the community understand what's in the bill and work with the community to see how law enforcement and the community can work together based on the changes in the bill, the mayor and the council have chosen to draft a resolution that only focuses on the concerns of law enforcement. And thirdly, my name is Christine Ide, Ward 1. I have expressed my comments already to my alderman, Eric Borneman, but would like to publicly oppose Resolution R 2021-03 concerning the Police Reform and Criminal Justice Bill, HB 3653, which will be addressed later in this meeting. This is a very necessary bill which has already had key parts removed that I hope will be further addressed later by Congress. It is concerning that police and legislators who consider, quotes, law and order, end quotes, important are opposing this bill. Its support is to make our community safer and more just for all of us, including police officers and those of us with white privilege, but especially for our neighbors of color who are not equally protected. It serves to help counteract years of racial bias, injustice, and violence against people of color. Because I am white, I have never had to fear calling the police in time of need, but I have friends of color who have been stopped for no reason, treated rudely, and must now be fearful of asking the police for help. Everyone, including law enforcement, must be accountable for their actions. If there is opposition to body cams, more training, more fairness in who and when people are jailed, getting assistance from mental health professionals, and holding officers accountable for their actions, then I take that as an admission that there are real problems that people are not willing to admit to. Of course, there are, in quotes, good, end quote, cops. But just as I must face and work to remove my own racial bias, so must these law enforcement professionals. This law is meant to help them do this. I urge you to vote no on sending this resolution R 2021-03 to our governor. It is crucial that he, in bold, does sign this piece of legislation. Thank you for your dedication to making our community a better place. This vote can be another step toward that end.
Thank you. That ends item number 3. We'll move on to item number 4, which is the consent agenda. The consent agenda is considered to be routine in nature and acted as one motion unless there's a member of the council that would like to have something removed for further discussion. Is there anything, council? Seeing none, the consent agenda consists of approving and placing on file the board and commission minutes from the Historic Preservation from November 17th, 2020, the Social Justice Committee from November 19th, 2020, the building permit reports for December, the monthly police department report from November, the semi-annual liquor commission to the city manager from July to December, The Freeport Housing Authority Recovery Work Plan Update dated January 15th. Proclamation for School Choice Week for January 24th through the 30th. The finance reports for general fund, library, water, sanitary sewer, storm sewer funds from November 30th, 2020. The cash and investment reports from November 30th, 2020, as well as the approval from finance bills payable in the total of $720,974.07, and the approval of payroll for pay period ending January 2nd, 2021, in the total of $545,137.72. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
So moved.
We have a motion made by Alderman Ross, seconded by Alderman McClanathan. Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll?
Busker.
I was the second on that, but.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't catch the right name. So we'll put that second as Busker.
And your vote, Alderman Busker?
Aye.
Bra- Brashaw,
Aye.
Mysick,
Aye.
Berbere,
Aye.
Borneman,
Aye.
McClanathan,
Aye.
Ross,
Aye.
and Parker.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you. Item number 5 is the acceptance of appointments. Could you please read those for the record?
Acceptance of an appointment of Lou Ann Gordon as Deputy City Clerk. Acceptance of designations for Open Meetings Act, including Dovey Anderson, City Clerk, Lou Ann Gordon, Deputy City Clerk, and Diane Cayley, Executive Assistant. Ashley Huffines, Library Director, Connie Hoffman, Library Administrative Assistant, and to require annual training of OMA designees. Acceptance of appointment of Freedom of Information Act officers, including Dovey Anderson, City Clerk, Lou Ann Gordon, Deputy City Clerk, Diane Cayley, Executive Assistant, Denise Scudder, Fire Administrative Assistant, Travis Davis, Deputy Chief of Police, Andrew Schroeder, Detective Lieutenant, Freeport Police Department, Ashley Huffines, Library Director, Connie Hoffman, Library Administrative Assistant, and to require annual training of FOIA designees.
Thank you. If it pleases the council, will you just do this all in one motion?
So moved.
We have a motion. Was that you, McClanathan?
No.
Alderman Busker, and I will second that.
Okay, so I'll take a first from Alderman Busker and a second from Alderman Parker. Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll?
Busker,
Aye.
Brashaw,
Aye.
Mysick,
Aye.
Berbere,
Aye.
Borneman,
Aye.
McClanathan,
Aye.
Ross,
Aye.
and Parker.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you. Next is a promotion. Chief Leggett.
Yeah, Kurt's got the microphone.
I bring before the council this evening Hillary Brocious, Lieutenant Hillary Brocious, for her appointment to the fire marshal position. Hillary's been in public safety since 2005. She's been with the Freeport Fire Department since 2010. She's involved in EMS in Stockton, and she's a police officer in Warren also. She's been a firefighter paramedic for us, a lieutenant. She's on our technical rescue team, one of our fire arson investigator, and a public educator also. So, Hillary, without further ado, to all who shall see these presents, greetings. Know ye by the authority vested in me, reposing special trust and confidence in patriotism, valor, fidelity, and abilities of Hillary Brocious, I do hereby appoint you to the position of fire marshal in the Freeport Fire Department. To the rank as such, the first day of February 2021, to the appointee. Your appointment as fire marshal in the Freeport Fire Department makes you heir to a long and proud tradition of the fire service. By accepting this appointment, you're charged with demonstrating those standards of performance, moral courage, and dedication to the fire department and the city of Freeport, which may serve as an enviable example for your fellow fire service men and women. Your desire to excel and to guide others must be boundless. Your appearance must be a model for others, and your performance must be a continual reflection of your sincerity, attention to duty, and moral responsibility. By exhibiting unfailing trust and obedience to your superiors, cooperation and loyalty to your subordinates, understanding and strength to those you serve, you will contribute greatly to the effectiveness and good name of the City of Freeport Fire Department. Given under my hand this first day of February 2021. This is a historic moment for us. First of all, Hillary was the first female lieutenant, promoted just this last December, correct? October. Man, it goes by fast. And also our first female chief officer. Also, the first fire marshal for the city of Freeport. I appreciate the council's support in forming this position. I think it's going to serve us for a long time. And Hillary is the exact person we needed in that job. So, Hillary, do you have anything to say?
Thank you, everybody. Thank you guys for coming.
All right.
Oh, thanks to my family. Because, I've been gone a lot with training. Do I need this?
Yeah.
So I've been gone a lot with training and, with 7 kids between my husband and I, it's kind of hectic at home sometimes. And so my husband has been a rock. He takes care of everything when I'm gone. So hopefully, we made it, baby, back to 40-hour work weeks. So, for 20 years, I haven't had a regular job. And this still won't be a regular job per se, but a little bit better than the overnight, so. Anyway, thanks, everybody.
Congratulations, Hillary. Next is item number 7, which are some other recognitions by Manager Bucas.
Thank you, Your Honor. Tonight, we're going to be recognizing a number of individuals that work for the city of Freeport for the jobs that they've done for this past year. Our first recipient is Asia Gullett. Asia, you want to come up? Asia works in our library department. Asia is dedicated to providing the best library experience and customer service to our community. She is consistently seeking ways to improve workflows and services. If there's a task to be completed, you can rely on Asia to accurately get it done with a smile on her face. You can't tell right now, but she always is smiling. Asia brings a smile and integrity to everything she does at the library, and we look forward to another year ahead. Congratulations. Hope you got my good side.
Congratulations, Deza.
Our next recipient is from the utility department, and it's Matt Graves. Here's Matt. Matt's been with the city now for nearly 10 years. He started out as a meter reader, and then 2 years later, he took an open position as a third shift wastewater operator. While performing his duties, Matt also works with the lab supervisor, where he's gaining additional knowledge every day, and that. Matt is a Class 4 wastewater treatment operator and is currently working on his Class 1 license. And did you just take one of your exams just recently? No, scheduled to take, okay. So Matt's another one of our dedicated employees, and Matt, I'd like to give you plaque on behalf of the city. And would you like to say anything?
Just want to thank my coworkers and thank you, everybody. So.
Thanks, Matt.
Congratulations, Matt.
Tiffany. Oh, there you are. Hiding in the shadows over there. Wow, we got a lot of people. It's a good thing with the Tier 1 today or yesterday. Otherwise, we might be in trouble with the state. Tiffany's been with us for 13 years. She started in the Public Works Department in 2007, and 5 years later, switched over to the Water and Sewer Department. And then since 2019, since we combined those two positions, you've been holding that position as well. She's the friendly voice you hear when you call about the leaf collection and snow removal, and she's the heart of the department down there in our, we call it the yards, and in the Public Works Department. She enjoys her job and gives it her all every day, and for many duties she's probably most happy with and satisfied with is when she's helping people locate their loved ones at our city cemetery. Tiffany, thank you for your dedication, hard work, and continued success with the city. We have a group of shy people tonight, I think.
Congratulations, Tiffany.
Oops. Denise? Oops. It's nice when you have a table to work with. Denise, I'm going to give this to you now so I don't have to hold it while I'm reading this. Denise Scudder has been with the city for 22 plus years, and she's the person that kind of keeps the whole fire department together. As you can tell, they're all here. They can't get away from her. But while Denise isn't riding the trucks and going out on emergency service calls or that, she's still the face that people see when they come into our central station, and a calming voice when they call for looking for answers. She's worked with and trained 5 separate fire chiefs, multiple city administrations, and countless aspiring fire officers. During her time on the department, she assisted with 39 retirements and the hiring of over 64 new personnel. During her tenure with the department, she has handled the ever-changing administrative duties relating to EMS calls, fire, floods, windstorms, blizzards, and power outages, including all of the state and federal documentation required to get the city reimbursed for those expenses. We've gone from paper reports through computerized programs to web-based documentation. And these is our link to the EMS and accident billing systems, the Illinois Fire Marshal's Office, the National Incident Reporting System, and many state and federal agencies, as well as state and federal grants. Denise is one consistent in this department with a smile and kind word and a voice of practical reasoning when it's needed. She may have never set foot in a burning building, but her contribution to the success of the Shreveport Fire Department is every bit as important as a firefighter. Congratulations, Denise, and thank you for your many years of work with our city.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sure.
Congratulations, Denise.
Oh, man. I'm missing
You're missing.
the plaques.
They were already given.
Oh, okay. All right. Officer Trunkmiller. Devin Trunkmiller. Trunkenmiller. He's got a hard name like mine. Mine's so short, but we already gave him his plaque. But just to say a few words about Officer Trunkenmiller. I need a drink of water. To be named Officer of the Year requires results. In the policing role, results come in many forms. Most often we think of statistics, traffic stops, citations, arrests, warrants, etc. We also think of evidence collection, which most often takes a higher level of skill and commitment. Firearms, ammunition, narcotics, currency, even automobiles. Results are most often brought about by information. Having knowledge of criminal activity, who is involved, and who their accomplices might be goes hand in hand with producing results. This year's award goes to a police officer who produces results. Officer Trunkenmiller has assigned to the Freeport Police Department's gang unit in January of 2020. His knowledge of criminal element and their habits made this an easy transition. Using his knowledge combined with technology immediately brought results in the form of seized guns, drugs, currency, and multiple felony arrests. In 2020, Officer Devlin Trunkenmiller was nominated to become a field training officer and also selected to become a member of the emergency response team. Both positions require a high level of knowledge and skill and have great impact on the reputation and future of the department. Unfortunately, due to some training freeze, he was unable to officially be placed in our field training officer position. Then manpower issues came into play. Officer Trunkenmiller was called on to return to a shift in March to assist until vacancies were able to be filled. Though his presence was to remain in the gang unit, he agreed to move with understanding of the needs of the department. Officer Trunkenmiller returned to the gang unit in May and worked most of the summer as the sole member of the gang unit. Though working mostly alone, he continued to monitor high crime areas, known drug and gun offenders, and used tools at his disposal to combat violent crime. Again, in October, Officer Trunkenmiller was called upon to return to shift to assist with manpower issues. He did so without complaint and with understanding of the department needs. Back on his shift, he worked closely with shift members to continue not only to complete normal patrol functions, but also use the tools available to him in his gang unit position to continue to combat major crimes. Throughout all the moves required of Officer Trunkenmiller, one of his other attributes stood out: his positive attitude. Officer Trunkenmiller could always be counted on to be a positive influence on his peers, no matter what position he was in. He could be counted on to take a team approach to any situation and to encourage those around him to take an active approach to their night's work. He could also be counted on for a laugh or two in any situation. We ought to change jokes sometimes. I'm pretty funny too. When not working, Officer Trunkenmiller can also be counted on to volunteer with his time off duty functions. Although those were much fewer this year, he was still able to go out and help with the police department testing and also shop with the cop. Officer Trunkenmiller, congratulations, and thank you very much for your service to the city.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Devin.
Brian and Janet. Oh, okay. Great. I understand you already got your awards ready, plaques. Okay, great. This is Brian Johnson and Janet Weber. They have been selected as the Police Civilian Volunteers of the Year this year. Over the course of the past year, Brian and Janet volunteered to assist in updating and rewriting the 911 Center policies. Both Brian and Janet attended extra meetings and throughout their collaboration updated all the 911 policies for the 911 Center. These policies were then used to collaborate with the county and are being implemented at this time. Without their desire to assist in this process and their initiative, the project would not have been completed in such a timely and efficient manner. Brian and Janet, during the last part of the year, without prompting, took the initiative to update the Communications Training Officers program. This drive and initiative is a testament of the work ethics of both Brian and Janet. Through their hard work and determination, the Freeport Police Department Communications Center is better prepared to serve the Freeport Police Department and the community. Congratulations to both of you on volunteering. We really greatly appreciate it.
We actually work for the city.
You do?
For many years, Randy.
Really?
Many years, you bet.
Okay,
Very
where's
good.
Officer Trunkenmiller? we got a joke about this one. Okay. Well, congratulations. I assume you guys were volunteering.
Civilian employees.
Civilian employees of the year. Oh, that's what Matt told me, but I was thinking volunteer for some reason. Okay, well, congratulations. I'm glad you're working for us because we really need good workers.
Congratulations, Brian and Janet.
Ashley. Did we get a picture?
No, we did not.
Let's get a picture. Actually, we're gonna, excuse me for a second. We're gonna take a picture of Brian and Janet.
We got one.
You got one?
Yep.
Oh,
The
okay.
deputy chief took it.
We're gonna welcome you back, Ashley. Clap. Ashley Humpvines is our library director, and she's been nominated to be the department head of the year. The library director differs from other department heads in that she doesn't directly report to anyone at City Hall, and yet the relationship that she has with members of the city here are very important. I've watched Ashley and her interaction with employees at City Hall and have seen how she truly cares about them and how she's worked hard to develop those relationships and to be reverent, I need, like I said, I need to drink water, to be a great department head. How's that? Ashley has developed personal relationships with all her library staff, which has enabled her to speak frankly with them when it's necessary, yet holds them responsible to work that they are assigned. She has also taken action on personal issues when necessary and stayed true to her word of holding staff responsible and following the guidelines of employment set up by the city of Freeport. The community has also benefited from Ashley becoming director in the 2 short years that she's been here. She not only has joined groups, but has actively taken positions of office in those organizations, such as the Freeport Rotary Club, the Women's Enrichment Network, and the Art Plaza Committee. She has reached out to other groups offering the library services and meeting rooms to benefit their programs. Her innovations to expand library services is a credit to her leadership. Through this pandemic, she was able to implement curbside service, reorganize various sections and departments within the library itself, and to seek out new funding sources. Professionalism and integrity are 2 qualities of Ashley's strong points. As far as integrity, she leads by example, and her work ethic and integrity of her position are taken very seriously. She reaches out to her peers for new ideas and shares her ideas with them as well. Ashley, congratulations on a job well done. Thank you.
I just want to say thank you, and I'm humbled by this. 2020 was a year that affected every department of the city in many different ways, and every department head definitely deserves an award like this year. So thank you to my peers and City Council, Mayor Miller, Manager Bucas. It's been a joy working for you, with you. Sorry. Thank you.
Yeah, I should point out that it was department heads that nominated Ashley for this position, so she does have the respect and that of the department heads and knowing what great job you're doing, as well as I do. Thank you.
Congratulations, Ashley.
Okay, we need a drum roll. Our next recognition is for the Employee of the Year Award, and this goes to Tom Peavy, who works in our finance department. Tom? Tom has been with the City of Freeport since June of 2018 as our junior accountant in the finance department. His primary job responsibilities are to run payroll and accounts payable, 2 of the biggest responsibilities in the finance department, and as all of us employees know, a very important position. He has constantly juggled his priorities and always meets with the deadlines that are set before him. He has proven himself to be a valuable asset to the finance department in many ways. He is always punctual and has a positive attitude. He is willing to jump in and help one of our last-minute tasks accomplished at the moment's notice. He is also anxious to learn more about government accounting, which is something kind of dry to most people, but it's very important that we do have good people like Tom in there. Tom has put in many extra hours this past year with not only the implementation of our new software system, but being short-staffed by one position in that department. juggling many tasks at one time is not unusual for Tommy. He's a real team player. A quick story, we had to do, during this implementation of the new software, there was a week where we would run a payroll in the old system and in the new system to make sure that all the numbers came out right. We didn't want to, they have to come out to the very penny. We don't want to short anybody. We don't want to overpay anybody. So they called this a parallel payroll week. But some people call it other things because you're doing the same work twice. As you can imagine, all the variables with payroll, tax rates, deduction amounts, wage rates, everything, all of them had to be checked and double checked. This week was a very intense first time. Unfortunately, when the live data came in over, Tommy had to work through a second parallel payroll week due to some data correction that was in the files. They had some errors. So he persevered through it and got the job done. Best of all, Tommy, unlike most of you here, he's been able to put up with my sense of humor for the last 2 years as well. Because I used to be the finance director, so he heard all my stupid jokes every day. So Tommy, I greatly appreciate you putting up with me on that. And I want to thank you too for all the work that you're doing in the finance department for the city of Freeport. You're doing a great job. Keep it up and get your CPA and your IGFOA certificate as well. All right. Okay. Oh, you want something? Oh, here you go. Oh, I can't take it out. Oh, that's all right. No, you don't have to. All right, thanks, Tommy. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Congratulations, Tommy.
Hey, how you doing, George? Appreciate it. Take care.
Okay, let's move on to item number 8, which is the second reading of ordinance 2021-03. Madam Clerk, could you please read this?
Ordinance approving and authorizing an amendment to vehicle lease agreement with the Stevenson County Senior Center, DBA Senior Resource Center.
Thank you. Director Hines?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just as a refresher, this amendment to the agreement with the Senior Resource Center is just to add the 4 new buses and the 1 new 5-passenger minivan that we've gotten since 2018, and we have gotten rid of some of the vehicles as well. And so this is just an update to the existing agreement that we have. Staff would recommend approval of the amendment to the vehicle lease agreement.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, Alderman Bradshaw.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Director Hines, I know we discussed this at the committee of the whole meeting to a certain degree, and you assured us that this was a routine ordinance that is to keep the list of vehicles and information up to date and current, and it's just a routine manner to do this. Is that correct?
That is correct. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else, Council? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, would you please take the roll on the passage of ordinance 2021-03?
Busker,
Aye.
Brashaw,
Aye.
Mysick,
Aye.
Berbere,
Aye.
Borneman,
Aye.
McClanathan,
Aye.
Ross,
Aye.
and Parker.
Aye.
The ordinance passes 8-0.
Thank you. Item number 9 is the first reading of ordinance 2021-05. Could you please read this?
An ordinance amending the airplane hangar fees at the Freeport Albertus Airport.
Thank you. Manager Bucus.
Thank you, Your Honor. The city owns and maintains a number of airport hangars at Albertus Airport, and it's been at least 8 years since the last time we looked at the hangar rental fees and reviewed them and raised them. What staff's recommending is approximately a 10% increase in our hangar fees. This will keep us in line with some of the other airports in our area. The airport manager has talked to the airport Pilots and Aircraft Owner Association. They did not have any problems with the moderate increase in fees that we were looking at. This increase in fees would generate approximately an additional $10,000 for additional improvements that we need to make at the airport. And it's staff's recommendation that City Council adopt ordinance 2021-05.
Questions, council?
Madam Mayor,
Alderman Busker?
motion to move it forward.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion on the floor made by Alderman Busker, seconded by Alderman Ross to move ordinance 2021-05 on to the next regularly scheduled meeting. Is there any other discussion, council, before we move on? Item number 10 is the first reading of ordinance 2021-06. Could you please read this?
Ordinance adding the position of social service professional to the police department.
Thank you. Chief Summers?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. There isn't much that's changed since the committee of the whole meeting. We're looking to create a position to provide mental health services to the citizens of Freeport and change the way that we do things a little bit at the police department in regard to the approach towards mental health.
Questions, council?
Your Honor, make a motion to move that forward. Second.
Second.
We have a motion on the floor made by Alderman Parker, seconded by Alderman Ross to move ordinance 2021-06 on to the next regularly scheduled meeting. Was there anything else, council, that you would like to discuss concerning this?
Mayor,
Yes.
I missed the second, please.
Ross.
Thank you.
Then we will move on to item number 11, which is the adoption of resolution 2021-02. Could you please read this?
Motion to approve bid and resolution authorizing and approving an agreement with J.H. Barkow and Sons for the purchase of new police vehicles.
Thank you. Chief Summers?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. On December 29th, we had a bid opening for two police pursuit vehicles. We received two bids that came in. One was from J.H. Barkow. The second was from the state bid at Morrow Brothers Ford in Greenfield, Illinois. The pricing from Barkow was significantly lower. That included the trade-in value, and we are making a recommendation to go with the local bid and the lower bid to purchase the two vehicles.
Your Honor,
Alderman Parker?
looking at all the figures, I think that's a very good move, and I'll make a motion to approve. Second.
We have a motion on the floor made by Alderman Parker, seconded by Alderman Ross to adopt resolution 2021-02. Do we have any questions, council, before we move on? Alderman
Madam
McClanahan?
Mayor?
This, Chief, I don't have a problem with the bid. In reviewing your memo on this, do I read it correctly that you're planning on basically eventually going to all SUVs for the fleet, or is that only for a certain portion of your fleet?
The majority of the fleet, of the patrol vehicles, will most likely be SUVs. A lot of the builders of police packages are going away from the sedans. Dodge has just recently introduced another one. The Dodge Charger is a sedan. They're bringing, or they're continuing on with that in a package that would fit more with municipalities. But that wasn't what we were looking for on this bid. We were originally told that Ford was getting out of the sedan package, and it wasn't until after that we received the bids that we were able to find that in 2021-22 that they're going to have a sedan package that might fit well with municipal policing. So there could be an option of going back to that.
Follow up, Madam Mayor.
Sure.
Do you anticipate going to more SUVs to have an impact on the availability of funds using, looking at the primary source that we have for funding these vehicles and how many vehicles you generally have been able to replace on an annual basis?
Could you restate that question?
At one point, through the capital, or through the tax that went to funding these vehicles, you were able to replace approximately 4 vehicles a year. That went down to about 3 vehicles per year. Is going to an SUV model going to impact the number of vehicles that you're able to replace in a year, given the current amount of funding?
Yes, it will. The SUV is significantly higher in price than the sedans. However, they are built a little more durable. So I'm anxious to see if we can get a longer period out of those vehicles. They're still driven the same amount of miles. However, can we stretch those more durable vehicles into longer service time? So that's something we'll have to look into, since we're just now getting to the SUV arena.
Madam Mayor?
Alderman Brashaw.
Thank you. Chief, speaking of funding, also in your memo, I noticed it said originally that you're needing to replace 3 marked squad cars, but at this point we are looking at bids for only 2. Is that because of the cost and because of what was budgeted?
That is also included in that memo. We are looking to repurpose the K-9 vehicles, at least one of those K-9 vehicles, and put those into service with some of the extra funds that are left over. Because they were K-9 vehicles, we're going to have to spend some additional funding on putting those things in there that will make that a suitable squad car to replace one of those other vehicles that we're not going to be able to get at this time.
Madam Mayor?
Alderman Brashaw.
To clarify that, Chief, I can't quite understand what you're saying. Are you saying that you will repurpose those cars by changing some things out, or was that to trade them in?
No, we will. They have low miles on them, so we will repurpose that vehicle. Currently, they're not set up for a traditional squad car. They have dog kennels in them, so we'll take that dog kennel out and put a traditional back seat in that we can use for a transport vehicle when we need to do that, and we can get more years in service out of those vehicles.
I understand now. Thank you.
Mayor?
Alderman Ross.
Yes, Chief Summer. Can you explain how these vehicles will get around better? They'll be better suited for the wintertime when we get bad weather.
They are better suited for the winter. They're also better suited for any time that there's some flooding. When we need to get across there, they have a higher wheelbase, so they can get through some of those things and get in some of the other tougher areas in town that we need to get to sometimes, where our squads have difficulty getting through there.
Follow up. Yeah, that was my main concern, because the city is broader in range, and with the last snowfall, I noticed that there was a squad that was having a little difficulty, but they got along. But these vehicles right here will get them along, get there a lot more quicker, safer, and go from there. Thank you.
If there's no other comments, Madam Clerk, would you please take the roll on the passage of Resolution 2021-02?
Busker.
Aye.
Brashaw.
Aye.
Mysick.
Aye.
Berbere.
Aye.
Borneman.
Aye.
McClanathan.
Aye.
Ross.
Aye.
And Parker.
Aye.
The resolution is adopted 8-0.
Thank you. Item number 12 is the adoption of Resolution 2021-03. Could you please read this?
Resolution to Governor Pritzker requesting veto of police reform and criminal justice bill HB 3653.
Thank you. Manager Bucus.
Thank you, Your Honor. House Bill 3653, also known as the Criminal Reform Bill, was passed by the Illinois Senate at 4:30 a.m. on January 13, 2021. The Illinois House of Representatives, after cutting off debate, adopted it the same morning, just before noon, actually, at 11:30, and just before the swearing in of the new state Senate and the new state House of Representatives. This bill is over 700 pages long. It allows for the elimination of cash bail. It allows for the release of anyone charged with an offense, including those charged with felonies. There is no guarantee that the defendant will return to court. If the judge does determine an accused defendant is a flight or public safety risk who must remain behind bars, the bill requires the judges to justify that decision with a written finding as to why less restrictive conditions could not be offered. Secondly, with electronic monitoring, it will loosen the requirements under the bill, with fewer defendants required to participate in electronic monitoring. Third, it mandates specific role-playing exercises for the police department and includes conflicting regulations on police department's ability as to when and how to use force and when making an arrest. It prohibits the purchase of surplus military equipment like the Humvee we used during the floodings that we have here in town. It also creates a number of unfunded mandates. The passing of House Bill 3653 was done without transparency or open discussion. The elimination of cash bail should be explored. The current system of cash bail often penalizes the accused poor, with allowing defendants with money to be free while waiting trial. New Jersey did a study on this some time ago, I believe 4 years ago, and during that time, they were able to determine what crimes a cash bail would not be necessary. The state of Illinois did not do any type of venting on this bill or talk to any police agencies or local governments on how this should be implemented. And staff's recommendation that the City Council approve the resolution objecting to House Bill 3653 and ask that the governor veto it.
And I would just like to add that the city is committed to building trust in our community, and we do not support officers breaking the law. While the city supports many of the criminal justice reform measures that contain in this bill, some of the measures will have significant negative impact on the safety of the residents of our city and the men and women of our city police department. Also, law enforcement agencies were not provided any meaningful opportunity to comment on or participate in the crafting of this reform measures. The city also joins with the Illinois Chiefs Association, the Illinois Sheriff's Association, the Illinois State's Attorneys Association, the Illinois Police Benevolence and Protective Association, and the Fraternal Order of Police, with the expressing sincere disappointment over the passage of this bill during a lame duck session. We are asking the governor to veto this bill, sending the matter back to legislation, where hopefully municipalities will be able to provide more input before new legislation is enacted. The City of Freeport understands that criminal justice reform should be a priority and certainly does not wish to stand in the way of reform. It is simply the desire that municipalities and law enforcement be involved in the process to ensure that all the concerns are thoughtfully considered. Discussion on this resolution.
Your Honor.
Alderman Parker.
This is very personal to me, and I totally agree with what you said. I think all parties, when you're changing the law as drastic as this is, all parties need to have input. And you can't pass something 700 pages long in a few hours. You got to have law enforcement, you got to have all parties involved to draft something. I'm totally in favor of some changes in there, like the body cams and stuff. But I don't want to put a burden on the officers out there trying to do their job. They've already been through the PTI, the field training program, hesitating to do something because of something like that and get themselves hurt or killed. So I don't think it's going to help. I do think it's going to be signed personally, but I do like the resolution, and I'm going to support it.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor?
Patrick?
Alderman
Madam Mayor?
McClanahan.
Yeah, McIver.
Thank you. Can you hear me, Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Okay. A variety of thoughts in regards to the resolution. One, just to note, I have read the entire bill, all 764 pages, so I'm not taking any hyperbole or someone else's representation on it. It's purely on my review and interpretation of the bill. And with that said, there are some significant portions on here that I think are beneficial. I think they're an improvement. And obviously the city's not against body cameras because we installed those about 4 years ago. Now I realize it's going to expand it a little more, but I don't think that's a large problem, though we're going to have to figure out funding down the road. There's certain standards, certain training put in there that I think it also can be incredibly beneficial. I know that her comments, because there were too many, could be read into the record, but upon review of Pat Norman's submitted comments, which will be on review with the clerk, a lot of the things that she highlights in the bill as good aspects of the bill, there are many of those that I agree are good aspects of the bill. With that said, when I got to the portions of the training, I did notice a lot of these are unfunded mandates, which have the potential of increasing substantial costs to us, which can impact the types of services that we can provide. I think some of those training things, if they were to be imposed on the municipality, should have corresponding significant increases in funding from the state, something which was not present in the bill. When I got to the use of force provisions, many of the paragraphs and provisions I understand. I think the issues that the legislature is trying to correct in regards to that. However, the actual language that was put in place, I think, creates such ambiguity in regards to the use of force, and also certain provisions, for instance, such as in regards to the use of projectiles and certain areas where they can and cannot be used, and then also certain actions that must be taken in regards to other uses of force that I foresee substantial limitations. I foresee situations where use of force be limited, where it's going to be detrimental to everybody involved in the situation, or cops will just get into a situation where they will choose to the detriment of the public to use force in situations where it would be appropriate. However, my largest complaint, or my largest concerns that I think that significantly impact this community, and that's why I am in favor of us going on the record in regards to this, because this isn't a legislative decision that is made in Springfield and then we just have to deal with it. These are things that are going to have significant real life impact on us, and the ones that I think that the legislature erred on to the significant detriment of the safety of the public was in regards to cash bail. I have a laundry list and page citations in regards to what they are practically, but I don't want to bore you guys with them. But in summary, the presumptions in regards to release that are put in place, the restrictions in regards to the classifications of penalties that are eligible even for holding an individual, the pre-trial, the pre-hearing requirements that are put in place, the very limited circumstances where an individual can be held, the fact that you can't, if somebody fails to appear for court and they're brought into custody and you want to hold them again, you can't use the fact that they failed to appear previously in court as evidence of a future intent to not appear. Certain crimes, individuals can commit subsequent crimes while out on release, and just due to the nature of what those crimes are, they're eligible to be released again. Some of these crimes are not minor either. They involve trespass, they involve certain drug offenses, they involve beyond disorderly conduct and things of that nature, certain thefts, where you can literally have a revolving door in regards to an individual committing offense. And from a practical standpoint, there are a few things that are more discouraging to law-abiding citizens than to cooperate with law enforcement, see an individual taken into custody, and then that individual is just immediately released because of a provision that allows them potentially putting the individual who helped cooperate with law enforcement in some sort of type of harm. Again, there are many other aspects of it that I believe are troubling in regards to it, but I think it's also illuminating that two of the entities that recently had cash bail jurisdictions had cash bail up for consideration, one being New York, which passed it a little over, I think, about a year ago. Within several months, they significantly scaled back and restricted the legislation. And the voters of California this last November were presented with the option of eliminating cash bail, and they rejected it. There are as with other aspects of this bill, I get where they're going for reform, but the practical applications of the letter of the law as it's written on here, and implications on the public, it will lead to a result that is neither safe nor just for the citizens of Freeport. So with the unfunded mandates, the lack of clarity regarding the use of force, and the significant implications of the way that the legislature passed the elimination of cash bail and the impact that it's going to have on us, I think this resolution is well founded. I like Alderman Parker, I fully expect the governor's going to sign it anyway, but these real life applications that this resolution is going to have on us as written, I think is worthy of the responses proposed in the resolution. Thank you.
Anything else, council? Is there a motion for adoption?
So moved.
We have a motion made by Alderman Parker. Is there a second?
Second.
Dan?
And a second by Alderman Misick. Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll?
Busker,
Aye.
Brashaw,
Aye.
Misick,
Aye.
Berberet,
Aye.
Borneman,
Aye. Aye.
McClanathan,
Aye.
Ross,
Aye.
and Parker.
Aye.
The resolution is adopted 8-0.
Thank you. Item number 13 is reports of department heads. Finance. Thank you very much. Community development.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to give an update on the Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities grant application for FEMA. So this is one of the grant programs that we're applying for the same exact purpose as pre-disaster mitigation. It's for an acquisition and demolition flood mitigation project on the east side. We did submit our application to the state this past weekend, and their absolute deadline to submit to FEMA is the 27th, so that's coming up pretty soon. The total project included about 140 properties, so we did not get voluntary interest forms from all those properties. But we hope that we see good outcomes from these grants too. Thank you.
Thank you. Public Works? Thank you. Fire? Thank you. Police?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just again want to congratulate the employees from the police department. They've done an outstanding job all year long. And our 3 new employees are back from the academy. They started yesterday, and they're back here in training, and they're going to be out in the squad cars very, very soon.
Good to hear. Thank you. IT? Thank you. Library?
I'll make this short. I did an interview with News 23 in Rockford today to highlight some of the services that the library has, and how we're keeping the public safe. So that should be, it was either around 5 or 6 o'clock tonight, and then it will be online tomorrow. So if anybody's interested to hear me talk about the library, which is your favorite thing, it's there for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. City Manager?
Thank you, Your Honor. Friday, our region went from Tier 3 to Tier 2, and yesterday we went to Tier 1 as far as the COVID-19 pandemic regulations. And what does that mean? It means that indoor service is limited to either 25 guests or 25% of capacity per room. It means that the bars and restaurants can now be open, but patrons must be seated at tables, and tables need to be 6 feet apart. It also means that we could have meetings and social events such as weddings and funerals and potluck dinners, but it's also limited to 25 guests or 25% of the overall room capacity, whether it's indoors or outdoors. And face coverings are still being required, and fitness centers can now be open as well. And so we're moving forward. Our numbers are going down as far as the number of positive tests in our region and in our county. Because of this, I'm looking to open up City Hall once again, beginning February 1st. We'll have some hours. Our hours will be from 10 a.m. to 3:30 p.m., with 10 to 11 being reserved for the senior citizens and those with special needs. And that's all I have for tonight, Your Honor.
Thank you. You talked about all the things that I was thinking about, so I won't repeat all that. I will just like to say thank you to everyone for supporting and for continuing to support all of our local small businesses. Item number 16, Alderman Busker.
Yes, a couple of different people approached me about what the city's plan of action is with assisting in people getting vaccinated. Are we assisting in any way with the health department as for sites or volunteers to help administer vaccines or anything like that?
Well, the last meeting that Manager Bucharest and I were in with the health department is they're working out those details. So once they determine what that looks like, then we'll partner with them on that. We just don't want to get the cart before the horse and have duplicate work for the health department. So as soon as they know, we will partner with that.
Thank you. I've got nothing further this evening.
Thank you. Alderman Brashaw?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Manager Bucas, could you please make sure that the City Hall hours are posted on social media?
We'll be posting it not only on Facebook, but also our website and sending out a press release as well.
Thank you, sir. That's all.
Thank you. Alderman Misick?
Yes, I would like to say congratulations to those appointments and recognitions to all the employees recognized tonight, as well as other staff and department heads. It really is an amazing team, and really what a pleasure it is to serve in the city and to see the excellence and leadership of these individuals. So it's truly an honor, and I just want to thank each of those recognized. Thanks.
Thank you. Alderman Berberet?
Thank you, Your Honor. I would just like to compliment Alderman McClenathan for his diligence in reading 700 plus pages of what could become legislation, and I congratulate him on that, and I thank him for his insights, and I concur with what he was saying. That is all.
Thank you. Alderman Borneman?
Thank you, Mayor. And I agree with Mr. Berberet and appreciate Mr. McClenathan's comments and do agree with his concerns. One of the comments was that there are good things in the bill, so I'd point out something that I found to be positive, which is the Community Law Enforcement and Other First Responder Partnership for Deflection and Substance Use Disorder Treatment Act, which is the title of the act, a very long title. But it looks like it'd be a positive thing for the department to look into. I encourage Manager Bucas and Chief Summers to see what likelihood it would be for us to receive grant funding for this. I know since we already have body-worn cameras in place, we may be eligible or receive preference in funding for grants that are available due to us having body-worn cameras in place. So with that being said, just encourage the department to make the best of a situation, which is the act, which again is going to be passed, and the resolution was basically political theater and not going to accomplish what it's asking. So let's make the best of it, and that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman McClenathan?
Thank you. And I did want to reiterate, I said it at the beginning, but then obviously I went off on a lot of issues that I think unfortunately poisoned the well too much for it. But there are substantial things that will be good and will be beneficial out there. My only regret is the legislature didn't stop at that point and then went on and added things that I'm not sure they understand the impact that it's going to have on our community. But that said, even with that substantial, what I believe is going to be substantial harm, there is some substantial progress made too as well, and I want to acknowledge that.
Thank you. Alderman Ross?
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
Thank you. Alderman Parker?
Yes, Your Honor. A couple things is, one, I want to thank Alderman McClanahan. He had a real good insight and he explained it very well. The other is with the retirement of Joe Geider, who is the head of the 911 board, people like Janet and Brian, who've been there a long time, friends of mine, but with them two in there, that 911, Joe Geider got 911 going great, and the people like that are going to keep it going. So I want to congratulate Joe Geider on the many, many years of getting the 911 together, and Janet and Brian for keeping it going and putting their input. Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 17 is public comment. I know we had one that was emailed in. Madam Clerk, could you please read that?
Here is an email from Terrence Steenrod titled, "Does this feel right?" With question mark. Does this feel right? Just some thoughts on Freeport and its needs. Sadly, it needs a lot, and sadly, it's located in the financially, quote, broke, unquote, state of Illinois, where corruption, cutting services, and tax increases have become the way of life. I wish I had, in quotes, the handle, end quote, on what needs to be done in all circumstances. But let me focus on the basics I believe people look at and look for in a small town. Most of the status of things in communities are affected by communication and control. And when you don't have money, comma, add, ellipsis, volunteers. There are plenty of elderly or retired Freeporters that have the time, desire, and ability to get involved in organized and active efforts. However, I know for a fact that it's not easy to get, quotes, inside, end quote, and be listened to. Communication is a two-way street. My interest was and is in beautification, specifically on the subject of waste and litter, that I believe is a gauge for upstanding people when looking at a community to make their home and be proud of it. Where are the priorities? In my opinion, anything that can be seen or felt. The seeing is fairly straightforward. The feeling involves much more. Here I'll share the three kinds of, quotes, feeling, end quote, I'm referring to. The first is after seeing the community, a feeling, parentheses, or sense, end parentheses, about it is formed. I think it's about how it is formed. That can only be created following the first impression. The second is literally feeling the condition of roadway and street infrastructure as they drive about town. The third is feeling it in the pocketbook with our crazy high property taxes. If I were that outsider looking at Freeport to be a good home, I would ask, in quotes, what am I getting for this expense, or why are the taxes so high, end quote. Then based on how I feel, I'd ask, quote, why do I want to live here, end quote. I am not faulting or attempting to condemn any current individual involved in city management. It has taken years and years of misprioritizing and mismanagement of our city's needs. I've never been involved in running or managing any municipal entity, much like many of the people that have entered the arena. But we need, comma, think outside the box, comma, conservative, common sense risk takers with a feeling and a vision for a better Freeport. Oh, and, ellipsis, coddle us old folks for our thoughts and volunteerism. Terry Steenrod.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Are there any other public comments this evening? Seeing none, I will take a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Ross, seconded by Alderman Parker. Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll?
Busker.
Aye.
Brashaw.
Aye.
Mysick.
Aye.
Berberet.
Aye.
Borneman.
Aye.
McClanathan. Ross.
Aye.
And Parker.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you. Have a good evening.